Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Packer Universe podcast. We're a Green Bay Packers fan podcast. A couple of Wisconsin guys bringing you topical and relevant Packers news, along with our most humble, subjective opinions. This is episode 257. We're recording this on a Wednesday, January 24th, 2024. The Packers lost in the divisional round against the 49ers. We had a pretty sorrowful first takeaway on Saturday evening late. But I've got Ren here in the studio to discuss that a little bit more and a whole lot of other things. I'm your host, Tay, and joining me across the table is
Ren. What up, Tay? How we doing in late January here? Could be a fun week prepping for a rematch in the Silverdome. I mean, Ford Field. But ultimately, yeah, Saturday night, our first take. Honestly, that was the worst I think I've heard you in a while. You were broken up about it. Not that I wasn't. Not that I'm still not bothered by it, but obviously time and space is a good thing always for all this stuff. It is inevitably just a game, and inevitably only one of 32 wins every year. So it's hard with a capital H, Tay. Yeah, But yeah, let's just go back to it. This is the post-mortem, Tay, of the 2023 season. I'm in all black here tonight.
yes, you're ready for it.
So
give your the eulogy, the Packer
we are
eulogy.
gonna talk about why this thing is not moving forward. So technically the eulogy and maybe some fond remembrances, Tay, of the 2023 season that was.
Sure. My voice was tanked that evening, and I think I talked slowly that night because I was like, if I talk loud and aggressive, I'm gonna lose. I lost my voice. I was up and down in the chair, yelling at the screen, hooping and hollering, and my voice was almost gone. I think fourth quarter, I literally had to tell myself, okay, quit yelling out loud because I'm losing my voice.
You do that now? I haven't watched a game with you in a while.
I did that night.
So that's interesting.
My hands hurt. My hands are all red from clapping so hard. I was like, yeah. That game was a roller coaster. It was up and down. It was so fun, but it was.
I was doing more of those Scrooge McDuck thing. Yeah, just wearing a rut into the ground, Tay, not saying much because my heart was in my chest and throat and just
sure. I mean,
anxiety. Up the, I'm just waiting for this thing to go the wrong way, which inevitably it did.
Well, I know, but when they did something good, and you like that big Aaron Jones run in the fourth quarter, when Nixon, brings that back, and you're like, hell yeah! All of a sudden he fumbles, you're like,
and
no!
Eric Wilson is the man. But my goodness,
that was the roller coaster. It was like, yeah, no, yeah. You're just like, feeling it.
Yeah.
So I was having a good old time because I thought the game was in hand,
Whoa.
not in hand, but like the game was attainable for most of the game.
I think the game was attained until it was given back to the other team that was the home team. Again, the better team didn't win Saturday.
No,
that didn't happen,
and that's where all the disappointment comes from. I don't want to beat this, into the ground more because you go listen to our first take. We lay it all out there. That's why I want to relive a few things that we didn't get to talk about because I think there's some definite things to you and I should bounce off each other in this podcast. I'm looking at your face across from me, so let's talk about it. Let's get the last vestige of this really sucked because as we talked about today, I mean. Every year is different. Even Matt LaFleur said this. The team's going to be different. Aaron Jones says one is most fun, if not most fun team he's ever been on. I mean, dang, all right. But I mean, this team's, most of the stuff's coming back. Most of the guys are coming back. But no, it's not the same thing every year. And, we hope that, health being equal, they'll start a, young run at it. But that's why it hurt, Tay, because, again, we talked about it. That's not a thing written in stone. We won the Super Bowl in 2010, and it never happened again. Yep. And it should have several times, probably.
But we know, through Packer pain, that it might not
It might not happen. Right. So I hear you. Like there's a point where you say, like, you need to win those games when you're there. You need to grab that while you can.
Especially when you're winning it. Again, if they're down, 7 to 10 to 14 for majority of the game, you're like, that was never. They got the division round.
Good for you.
Good on them. But that's not what game we
They're
watched.
ahead. They're winning. There's what was like 3 or 4 lead changes in this game.
The third quarter was pretty damn exciting, Tay.
It was that was
the quarter, and the Packers scored their most points. That is their best quarter all year. Was their best quarter all year, and then they tightened up with that lead, Tay.
Right.
Their last 4 possessions, and I don't know how it goes. I think it's like what? Interception, punt, missed field goal, interception, something like that. That's your last 4 possessions of the game, Tay. That's brutal. They didn't close out. That's a young team that didn't close out, and that's on them, man. I mean, again, Anders, he's a problem. Needs some competition. Apparently, they brought in some today, but a little too late.
Well, yeah. So you're there in the big game. You have this opportunity. You're in the divisional round, and you're handling your opponent pretty good. You have a chance to win. You do have a chance to win. You can win this one, and they don't. Right? You have to seize the opportunity, and I get that, but I'm just disappointed because we both realize and know that the best team didn't win.
Right.
And we left a lot on the field. This team could have done so many more things that game that at the end in the fourth quarter that could have made the difference. Mm-hmm. But now that's where my head was. I was really down and disappointed and sad on Saturday night, of course, right? Like every Packer fan should. I'm not saying that I'm not thinking with my brain now. Like I'm thinking with my brain, we got to the divisional round. That's great, right? No expectations going into this year. In fact, we kind of, halted those and put those off for a long time and kept saying, no. Okay, let's just relax here. I'm not going to pounce on anybody. Jordan Love, let's just see what he's got this whole year. Give him a year. Give Matt a year with this young team. And we did, and they outdid themselves, and the expectation was way down here, and they exceeded it. So you have to be super happy about the future, and you have to think, wow, okay, if we did that this year with these expectations, what's going to come in the next few years? So you definitely, one side, your brain says, dude, just quit worrying about this. Like, it's fine. Like, they're an up and coming young team. But then it's the heart on Saturday night where you're like, I could have, we could have done this. We could have done this. So, to the future Packers, I'm going to open this beer.
There you go. Well, that said, then you're giving me more time to talk, which I like. Let me run this one across you, Tay. That defensive game plan was pretty damn good up until that last Niner drive when it was classic Joe Barry, who we'll get to defense, just right down the field, took 5 plays, not much time. I don't know. Was very limited amount of effort was put in by the Niners to ultimately get the 7. But once you're there, Tay, there was a 3rd and 5, I think, at one point, and a nice Ayuk catch is made, and they convert, but a pretty tough catch at that. But once you've thought that last drive, the Packers would send pressure like every down, because ultimately if they get the 7, they get the 7, right? But then you're working with more time, just instead of the minute and 3 timeouts, now you're working with maybe 2-3 minutes, or you force a turnover, something big happens, they don't score 7. Wouldn't have that been a better way to attack that last drive? When the Niners are coming at you, just attack it. Because worst case scenario, they get 7, and you know what the deal is. And that's what happened anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So why let it take time if it's going to happen faster, if you're aggressive? Or, like I said, that aggressivity, Tay, leads to maybe a different outcome.
Is that a real word? Aggressivity?
Aggressivity. So what do you think about that? Do you think that they should have been throwing the house at them, I think, that drive?
Yeah. Yeah. Although that...
And Purdy was not throwing a great ball that game to begin with, Tay.
No, he started being better in the second quarter. That Kittle touchdown when they brought the heat, and that didn't work out for them. That was When was that? Let me rewind here. That was.
I think there was a missed tackle on that one though too, Tay, where this thing could be a 10-yard. I know you're talking about the longer one downfield. Or there's a piece by the defense missed on that.
That was the Savage one where Savage totally blew Kittle. Kittle just ran past him, but they brought the house. So I guess my point was that like that burned them. And they got a touchdown, and they and so bringing the heat at the end of the game,
if they're going to score, they're going to score. Tay, like I said, you got more time on your side.
Sure, and that's
or
why
again, ultimately something good might happen.
And that's kind of where I think everyone watching was like, okay, they scored. Who cares? Just that's what was going to happen.
But they played soft zone and just did the thing we're used to. Week 8 of the season, it was just like they're just nothing's going to. It's like the Panthers when they played the Panthers. They're just going to score.
Yeah,
it's just going to happen.
And so this is why it's frustrating to watch a Joe Barry defense. And they kind of resort and revert to these things. And when you want to do all gas, no brake, and the week before they put the pedal to the metal, I definitely question a lot of things like that. And we got our answer today.
We did. We'll get to that.
But I think it's just there were some things that the clock management was an issue that I think Matt kind of blew a little bit. He should have taken a timeout. Was that in the second ending of the second quarter to preserve some time? I think there were coaching miscues a little bit there, but yeah, putting the pressure on a young quarterback like that would have done wonders. And I think the defensive backfield kind of held their own. But yeah, you just it just was a repeat. It was a record again on repeat, and you're like, oh, they're giving up these big pass plays. So yeah, we saw it, and it's a shame. It's a shame, and it's just disheartening. Although it does come down to that Jordan Love decision to throw across the field, to intercept it, get intercepted. At the time, I'm like, whatever. Like, I'm not going to fault him for trying something. That particular pass, when you just look at that and nothing else, just that pass, you're like, why would you do that?
He deserves a ton of blame for that, Tay. The things he did wrong in that bad second quarter of the season, that was that play. I mean, that's the ultimate, the Tom Clements quarterback sin. The 7 deadly sins, or how many Tom has, I don't know. But deep late over the middle, Tay? No. There were 3 Niners and 1 Packer there, Tay. Live to play another down. You still have 2 timeouts. Right. Run out of bounds. Yeah. Why is your head suddenly, when you're making so many good decisions and protecting that football, just throw it away, get out of bounds, whatever. I don't know. It's like his brain was not working at that point. Literally. No, that's the never throw, Tay. Yeah. The never. Late over the middle. Deep late over the middle. I mean, it's just disaster written all over it. It's never recommended to any quarterback to do that.
It's just strange when he's
shame on him. He deserves blame too.
When he's hitting all of these other passes there, you're like, dang, that was a great pass. Dang, that was a great pass. One really bad, ugly pass at the end of the game to stop your chances at all to win is hard to swallow. So that one was tough.
Well, and the other interception too, Tay. I mean, what was that, Kraft? I mean, he's he makes the right check down, but he throws it high and behind him. It gets tipped, and that's an easy ball to pick off. So you got to make a better throw there.
What are you chalking this up to? Is this just this is a first year starter?
He regressed a little bit in that game. He didn't have a great game. Weather played a part of that. Maybe he got a little tight, feeling it late, because that third quarter was pretty crazy. And then he's starting to be like, he may be in his head, like, we're going to maybe do this. And he starts getting nervous, or there's a lot of anxiety, and he's, it's hard to guess, Tay, but, it's the things he did well to get them there over the weeks prior, he reverted a little bit down the stretch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm still torn on what to make of that, whether I can, decide all of his quarterback in that game in the last two games, the last 4 games on one pass. I think if this was mid-season, we'd be like, get him out of town, run him out.
Oh, no, I think he still deserves the big contract, and he'll get it. But don't make that throw, Jordan. Come on.
No, and I think he would be the first one to say he wants that back. And it's just that one was obviously the killer. And so yeah, there's a little bit of a blame to go around for a lot of different departments, but I don't know. They did play a really good team really well, so you have to give them credit for that. They didn't get as far, or they got further than we thought, and I don't know. There's something to be said about that. I think we really have to eventually, starting probably nowish, just get rid of that half empty glass and look at the half full part. And I think it's gonna come around sooner or later for us. I know it's hard because it's like it was so close, but they do have a lot going for them.
Well, it sucks for Matt too, because Matt finally probably outcoached Kyle. And you're like, damn, you still lost. That sucks.
Right.
He's probably like, I think I had a better game plan that day, and I lost.
Yep.
So,
yeah, I think the Packers have a equal or better team than the Niners that day. And Deebo Samuel got out that game. Okay, fine. Does that kind of equal things a little bit? Maybe equalizes it a little bit. Takes away one of their weapons on offense.
Yeah, but that whatever it was, 18 or no, that's
11.
Deebo.
It's
11.
Ayuk.
No, not Ayuk. The other guy, he made.
Jennings.
Yeah, he made huge plays in that game.
Yeah,
I think he was their most important receiver outside of Kittle in that game.
Especially in the fourth quarter, he was making all those.
He was just. I was like, who does? I don't know. But he balled out, man.
So one thing is definitely to say is true is they put up a really, really good fight, and they were an even match that day. Some things didn't go the Packers' way, some mistakes, that sort of thing. But I don't know. That's it. You can, again, looking at it optimistically, that's a good place to be. This was crazy. This was a really crazy year. I can't believe it still. I mean, we were one of 8 teams.
4 left in the NFC. Yep.
Yep. So it's like, that's pretty damn good.
Yeah, it was a fun season, Tay. That was a roller coaster season, but it was a hell of a lot of fun. Remember we were talking about
without baggage.
Right, to start the year, it was like just the fresh start.
Yeah, the fresh start.
This is gonna be good.
So,
and then we went through the downs, like maybe we didn't want the fresh start. I don't know. This kind of sucks being 2-5. But no, and then you get this end run that makes it. Yeah, it was like, honestly, that's the toughest loss I've probably the championship game against the Bucks, but really the Seattle one, because they had the game won.
Yeah.
And then all these little things, like from calls not made by the refs, which there's some egregious ones, to things they didn't execute right. And like I mentioned, those last 4 drives of the game, the first 3 drives of the game, you get in the red zone 3 times, you get 6 points. Ugh, terrible.
Yeah.
You get that first drive, nice long sustained drive again. Unlike the week prior, it doesn't end in 7, it ends in 3. It's just kind of that momentum builder versus not there, but it was a super fun season, man. I mean, that was, it was good. It was a breath of fresh air for not having, the drama queen there. And sorry, we'll love for a lot of Aaron, and we'll have some fond memories looking back, I'm sure, as we do in the future. But was so glad not to deal with that anymore.
I agree. So I think you maybe just answered my question, but I'm going to kind of phrase it in a different way. This was a great season. Like overall, you're like, okay, that was pretty cool. But when you look back, like as Ren, the GM, and as the Super Packer fan, do you think, my 2 questions are, was it a good move to move on from Aaron Rodgers? And then secondly, what about Rasul Douglas? Was that the move to make? And what if you did have him?
Oh, it was 100% right to move on from Aaron. It was 1 year too late, obviously. Last year wasn't any good. They just seemed like, last year just seemed kind of like a dark year like they tried to get in. It just seemed like it was that last gasp. And then we did have the darkness retreat upcoming. Like, what's going to happen? And we kind of all knew it was just this like,
it's
over the team. And it was just not good. But it was a year too late. Should have done it the year prior, but not give him all that money. But that said, Rasul Douglas would have been really helpful down the stretch, but hey, Carrington Valentine got some massive reps that are only going to go help his play better. So I think he's going to be a heck of a player. And hey, all those extra snaps he got, great. Valentine, is he going to be as good of a player as I think Valentine's going to be? Probably not, but hey, he played pretty admirably. Rasul would have really, really helped them down the stretch. I think they took an offer that they didn't, at the time where they were. I think that was just coming off that Vikings loss. They're like, yeah, I mean, they're sitting at 2-5 at that point. They're like, I don't know. I mean, they got called, made them a decent offer. They go, hey, how many, at the time Buffalo's kind of struggling, how many picks are we going to have in the top 100? Could this pick potentially end up if Buffalo crumbles? Take it. Unfortunately, they say sometimes the best deals are the ones you don't make. Well, in this case, they did make one, and could have helped down the stretch having Rasul there, the leader he was. So probably the mistake. We know the third-round picks don't generally work out that well in Green Bay, but it is what it is. And hey, they've got a third-round pick, and Russell isn't going to be there very long anyway. This is a pretty young team. We'll talk about a couple guys to end the show that are veterans that are probably not going to be there as well. So this team is likely going to be just as young next year because some of that oldest stuff at the end of the roster is going to be gone.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know what to think exactly about Rasul. Obviously, you made some good points with the play time of the young cornerbacks and young defensive backs that maybe wouldn't have had that much experience now if Rasul had been around. And yeah, I think that guy was he was a leader and he had some experience, and he made some really clutch plays, and he was a baller. So yeah, that probably lands in you probably shouldn't have done that camp, especially because we got so far in the playoffs. So I think I think he was missed, but knowing now what we know about that good young CB room, it's like, okay, well, that wasn't so bad. Like, we made the best of it, and surprisingly, like over the last half of the season, you didn't see a whole lot of like meltdowns in the defensive backfield.
And the safeties played decent too. You know, they weren't amazing, but they were solid. Yeah. And you looked at that safety room to start the year, and through the course of the year, like, this is still pretty bad. Yeah. But hey, give him credit.
Well, let's talk about it now because it's relevant. But Jonathan Owens, like, what do you think of Jonathan Owens? I thought he held his own. I thought he did well in that position. I thought he didn't lose a step. He didn't make it worse. I thought he developed over the season from where he was at the beginning, and it wasn't too shabby. I'd give him definitely a passing grade.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. He'd be like a CC minus for me, Tay. But
that's passing.
Yeah, he brings Simone with him. So hey, for another depth piece on a
depth
on a roster next year, because he's gonna be familiar with obviously your team, your culture. Hey, I'd bring him back, but again, it'd have to be a pretty, he's gonna be competing for a spot. Hopefully they bring in maybe a free agent along with, they're gonna draft a guy. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't pay much for Jonathan Owens, to be honest, Tay. No, I wouldn't. But speaking of that quarterback room, Tay, cornerback, defensive backs. Yep. How about Jair's tweet, Tay? Are you familiar with the tweet?
Is this the Instagram one with all the pictures and the almost like say goodbye kind of thing?
Yeah. Are you familiar with the conspiracy trolling tweet that he put out there?
This was a goodbye tweet.
Would you like me to read the caption?
I would. Yes, please.
Jair goes, "Thank God. Thank you, God. Thank you, Lambeau, for 6 years. Thank you to those who showed love throughout my journey." Quote unquote, eh?
Now, I'll play devil's advocate with you. Jair is posting this to be thankful and to be supportive of his fans and his family and people that had his back maybe when he got suspended and everyone was blasting him for doing that. Mm-hmm. And he wanted to come back and say, like, you know what, I thank you guys for supporting me. I did come back out of that, had a great game against the Dallas Cowboys, had a decent, pretty good game against the Niners. So thank you. Thank you for the last 6 years, everybody. And and now with the news of the D coordinator, maybe that's exactly what it was, and I'm happy now because I saw that coming. What do you think of that?
I mean, it's just always hard to know with him, especially the curious case of Jair, as we called it earlier this year, and then ultimately it ended up in a suspension for one game, and then he said the right things when he came back, said everybody be better for it. So hopefully that's the case, but certainly, he knew when he put it out there that way, that's gonna,
That's kind of his style, though, isn't it?
It is, a little bit, but you're gonna make people stand up and ask him questions. I mean, if they traded Jair, they get a lot for him, so on and so forth. But I wouldn't like it, but at the same time, he missed a bunch of the year anyway, and they were able to handle it to a decent degree. He didn't have a good year to begin with, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, if that's him being disgruntled or being done with the Packers, you can't stop that from happening.
No, if that was the case.
We're not out there trying to get him to change his mind. Like, it's like, okay, well, we can't do that for you. We've seen that done to a few players. What was that tight end?
Don't mention his name, Tay. Are you going there?
You know what I'm talking about.
You going the Pooh Bear guy?
Yeah, what's his name?
Don't say it.
Martellus Bennett.
Ugh.
And then
Worst Packer, one of the worst top 3 worst Packer free agent signings of all time.
You got him. You got the curious case of 55.
Zadarius.
Smith.
Yeah, that was
And
a
so
weird
it's like
one the year 2 years ago as well.
Most of the time when we see this stuff, it looks like a duck, it quacks like a duck. So you're like, oh, this is gonna be a duck,
Yep.
right? So is this gonna be a duck, Jair?
I mean, maybe.
I don't know.
It could be.
I say not. I think things with the coaching change kind of does wonders. I think for
he doesn't know who's coming in, or it could
get worse.
The coaching change, Tay. We're here. Tackler of air, Mr. Joe Barry, is no longer the Green Bay Packers defensive coordinator.
Yes. Oh, we wanted this the whole year.
Oh, happy day, Tay. The whole year. I think we wanted this last year at this time.
That's true. Very true.
This
is 2 years in the
It's
making.
a long time coming.
I mean, you got broken record the last 2 years. You start off really bad, 3/4 of a year probably, and then in the last quarter you start doing well. The defense plays good. What do you make of that? Oh, you keep them around for one more year, and then it happens again, and you're like, this has got to stop. So I think congratulations, Matt LaFleur, for actually pulling the trigger here. It's not like you didn't hear the fan base and everyone complaining about this, but I think you really did see what the problem was and that you could be better. And that's really why we're applauding you, because that this defense could be better than it is and has been. And we deserve it. The Packers deserve it. The players deserve a better coordinator.
They need to try something different. They just opened a window, and it's open for who knows how long. But you got to strike while the iron's hot. It's time for some changes in that coaching staff. It's gotten stale. We've talked about the brain drain. We've also talked about, when Matt does that, typically just moves guys up a step. So it's not just there. So they need an infusion of different voices. I think that's a good thing. I don't wish ill will towards Joe. Seems like a good dude, but again, this is not the friendship business.
No,
he wasn't ever. When you look at the overall pieces, as his units go, they weren't as bad as we thought. Obviously, we know that he's the first ever coordinator to coordinate a team, that being the 07 Lions, who were 0-16. And he also coordinated out in Washington with the then Redskins team. That was what they were at the time. And we know that to end the year, Tay, actually weeks 15 to 18, they ranked number 4. They went from 31, Tay, in opponent rushing yards to 4 over that time. So big change happened there. And over that time also we're allowing the fewest points and yards per game. So it switched, but that was when kind of Matt had to go walk down the hall. Was confirmed a little bit through some of these pressers this week that he spent more time in the defensive room.
Right.
So it seems like we talked about it in past First Takes and other episodes that maybe the fingerprints were on there. And then I heard today that this thing had been decided quite a while ago. So when Matt said, we're not going to make any change in season. It's just not, it sounds like the decision had already been made.
Okay.
They knew throughout some part of the season that he was going to move on. And obviously easier to move on when you're just not going to retain a guy. So they did not retain Joe Barry.
Well, he had one year contract.
Was there like a...
We thought that this was it.
Okay, so there's 1 year left on the contract.
Matt Schneidman discovered that yesterday.
He discovered it.
Or Monday.
Okay.
He discovered that, no, he had one more year on the contract, which I think also surprised everybody because he had a longer contract than usual for a defensive coordinator, 4 years or something.
Okay.
So
typically they give those 3-year deals out. Okay, so maybe that was an assumption by everyone out there.
But no, he was
which is interesting.
Taken away from that position.
But yeah, the Packers had the number 17th overall defense in yards allowed per game at 335.1, and the number 10 scoring defense in the league. Tay, they obviously turned things around towards the end of the season. Since they hired Barry in 2021, Tay, the defense ranked 9th, 17th, and in yards, and 13th, 17th, and 10th in points in his 3 seasons. So when you look at that again, because I screwed it up the first time, Tay, shocking, is that 9th, 17th, and 17th in yards, and 13th, 17th, and 10th in points over his 3 seasons. So it's not as bad overall as some people may call it, but it seemed at times like the message wasn't getting there, and a lot of guys didn't know what they were supposed to be doing. So like the teaching aspect and the knowledge of running a defense was not working in Green Bay. And hey, listen, Green Bay is the place where defensive coordinators go to die.
And they sometimes get retreaded and go somewhere even worse, like the Vikings. However, you're right. Like, this just doesn't seem to be the destination, the vacation football destination for a D coordinator.
So I see you got some names up on the board, Tay.
Well, let's get there in a second.
We will, but I don't know, whoever it's going to be, Tay, just remember, nobody's going to like it.
When we think about the change, this needed to happen. We all wanted this, so we got what we wanted, and I'm totally fine with that. We definitely need to change. Something needs to happen. So accountability, right? Accountability. And when you look at the eye tests all year around, you look at this game with your eyeballs, and you say, I don't care about stats. I'm looking at what's happening on the field, and that's where this all comes in. It all just reduces down to this defense is bad in the prime spots, right?
Prime spots indeed.
When it matters most, this defense failed us this year, correct? Right?
Mostly.
Yeah, and
yes.
So all these stats.
Final drive
stats,
in the Niners game, still one of those. Yes.
Exactly. So definitely, you gotta change it up. But I'm just scared, Ren. I'm scared that that Matt LaFleur is going to either not have someone out there that he wants, or he's just not gonna do it right. I just don't. I don't have a lot of faith in this upcoming hire from Matt LaFleur. It scares me, and I feel like I'm going to be disappointed the minute they announce it.
The minute they hire Brandon Staley, it's gonna happen.
It's not going to be him.
They're buds.
It can't be. It can't be.
It could be.
And this is the point.
It could be.
This is the point.
It very well could be. Tay.
Matt LaFleur, MLF, needs to go out of his
tree
neighborhood. Mm-hmm. He needs to go get someone that can coach, adapt, and just really nail it to these guys, the plan, and give them all jobs, and just go out there and perform. Like give them a responsibility, right? And get in their face when they fail. That's what we need. We don't need a friend of the family. We don't need someone to, I know him from my days at in the Titans, or Barry, were you under Staley for a little while? Yeah, you're the guy. And now we just need fresh meat. We need someone fresh that nobody knows about, at least Matt LaFleur doesn't know, to come in here, sweep this defense off their feet, and give them a purpose, redirect them. It's possible. There is that guy out there. But what I'm worried about is that person isn't going to get hired. The person that Matt wants in that position isn't out there. I mean, we've kind of talked about that for a lot of years, and Joe Barry was that well, I guess there's no one else defensive coordinator, so we'll hire him. So, like, when you look at this minimal list that I kind of just threw together quickly, like, out of even that list that we're about to say, and other people, like, do you think the guy is out there?
Yeah, I mean...
yeah, you hesitated a little bit.
I mean, true. By the way, you can take Vic Fangio off that. I think he is already the defensive coordinator in Philadelphia.
Well, it took like 3 hours, and he got a job.
Right, and not a surprise. I mean, he is the creator of the Vic Fangio defense. Everybody hears so much about, which I think the Vic Fangio defense has built and spread its wings throughout the league too, just like the Kyle Shanahan offense. And I don't know. I think it's a little overrated. The one thing I would say about a defensive coordinator in Green Bay, it's just it hasn't worked out probably since the 90s. That's probably the last time. Let's be honest. There's been a lot of real bad stuff there, from Dom to God, who was the one before Dom? The Vikings recently hired, and we're like, how did he get a job again all these years later? No, it was like, gosh, he was with the Vikings last year, I want to say. But there have been so many bad coordinators in Green Bay. I just like to see somebody come in that teaches these guys to play with an edge, because the Packer defense doesn't really seem to play with a chip or an edge. Physical. They're not physical.
Right.
They don't play a physical branded defense. That's not been their thing for a very long time. You have one name up there, Chris Hewitt, who, I like anybody from the Ravens, because guess what they do? They play physical branded defensive football. And they pretty much have since they became a franchise 20-some years ago.
Yeah.
I know they're now. Obviously you have Jim Leonard's name up there. It's going to be somebody people talk about Al Harris. People talk about, not sure why.
Yeah, where'd that come from?
Just because he's on, I think, Mike McCarthy's staff. He's coaching, and we all love Al Harris, I think.
Yeah, as a player, I have no idea about him as a
coach. I
coach.
even heard our guy down in Atlanta, the former cornerbacks coach up here.
Gray?
Yeah, Jerry Gray. He's an assistant head coach down in Atlanta currently, or was. We know they have a coaching change that's going to happen down there. Yeah, maybe he'll get an interview. Who knows? And the guys definitely like Jerry. And I said last year, remember before the season ended, I'm like, we need to let go of Joe now. Just let Jerry coach the rest of the season.
Right.
Guys like him. Give him a shot.
Yeah.
Nope, didn't happen. Another name that comes up is Jesse Minter. He was the defensive coordinator, I think, also coached maybe for the Ravens at a time, but defensive coordinator for the Michigan Wolverines, who won the national championship this year, as we know, unless he joins Jim Harbaugh out in Los Angeles with the Chargers. He may be available. So guys like that, Ejiro Evero, he was on the Panthers staff this year. He is being looked at by the Panthers as a possible head coaching replacement. So there's a number of guys out there, and there might be some younger assistant that we are totally off everybody's radar right now that gets the call and just going to come in and bring a fire to it. But hey, an outside voice now is going to go a long way, and you're going to see obviously a guy that comes in is going to at least bring probably another guy or two or three with him. So you're still going to this defensive staff is going to change. Not just one guy, but a few down the road here when this decision gets made over the next, I would guess, 2 to 4 weeks.
I'm happy with that. I'm totally happy with that. I'm looking forward to something like that. A changeover, like a refresh, it's definitely needed now, especially since we've got the refresh from Rodgers. We've got the refresh in the offense with the young wide receivers. The quarterback change, obviously, and even the offensive line, really, in the last 2 years has changed dramatically. I think it's just a new set, but we need that on defense. There's a lot of weapons, a lot of good personnel on our defense that just need to be coordinated, and I'm looking forward to it. In the same breath, I have zero faith. I really don't until I'm proven wrong. I really. I almost wish that the meddler would get involved in this situation here.
No, you don't ever wish that on anybody, Tay. Let Matt hire his guy.
He did that already.
Let Matt hire his guy, and let it be that. And we'll just kind of have to wait and see what this looks like next year, Tay. Let me ask you this, though, about this defense. It's been talked about a lot. Like, look at all these number 1 draft picks. It should be better. When you look at the guys starting on defense, do you go, hey, this is where, we got X, Y, and Z, all these picks, but I don't think they're that great, to be honest. And even with a better coach, I think you can get more out of them. But I think, that don't be surprised. What do we got? 5 top 100 picks, that 3 of those are defensive guys, Tay. Because I still think they need to make that defense better, and I don't think there's a lot of great guys on it.
Okay. I don't know. I don't really mind the guys on it. So, with the first picks that have happened. Van Ness. I just skip right to the one word conjunction. Van Ness, he's been better than I think Rashawn Gary was in his first year. I think he starts coming on later in the season. He's going to be good. You got Rashawn Gary. Obviously, Inigbari is out. Who knows when his availability will be next year. That's really disappointing.
And I think, let's be honest. I mean, Rashawn, crazy coming back in the injury way he did, but I don't think he had a sack since week 10.
Yeah.
Tay. I mean, he got the big contract, but he certainly didn't have a great year.
I don't know. It could be a case of the, Clay Matthews, where they just know there's one dude out there. I mean, Preston did a good, a good performance for his age and his.
I think Preston had a very good year personally.
And so, he's got at least one more good year. Maybe he starts regressing now, but you need to draft an outside edge for sure. But
Kenny's got what, 1, 2? I mean, that's a lot of miles on D tackles, man. They play in the trenches, and that dude's been playing physical, tough game of football for a while. And I think Kenny had a pretty good end of his season for sure. But
and then you look at Stokes. I mean, he's injured.
I think he's going to be.
What do you do with that?
Not on the roster in a couple years.
That was 2 years ago. He was drafted first.
Savage probably not going to be on the roster either, Tay.
So
another first-round pick.
I don't know. You just have to.
Jair Alexander. What if he gets traded to another first-round pick?
Right. So I think there are guys. There's some guys that haven't worked out, but I guess I would really point to the coaching staff. To me, I think that's
Devontae Wyatt, decent, but
yeah,
first-round pick.
Well, you can't judge a guy off of this is
couple years.
This is his second year.
Yeah, I don't think he's
more. I mean, Carl Brooks did more.
Carl Brooks had a hell of a year too.
Than
good pick.
Wyatt did. So,
I would say I mean, Wyatt might be a decent player, good rotational guy in that center, but he's never going to be. I don't think his top end is like Kenny Clark style play.
No. Nope. So some of these guys need to jump, right? They need to jump and they need to prove it. So are you saying that Brian has done a poor job of selecting, or we just have had unfortunate events happen to us, or you're talking that still need to keep padding this defense with good talent?
I think you do to go along with young talent on offense. I mean, sure, you look at Brian's last 2 drafts in 23 and 22, they're pretty solid, but you start looking back beyond that, Tay. Yeah, a lot of these guys, these higher end picks, didn't turn out, Tay.
No.
So I mean, it is what it is, man.
Yeah, I agree. So I guess that the defensive coordinator piece is really important here. I think because you could take some of these guys that aren't performing or whatever to take them to the next level, and maybe that's what you need. Maybe that's what Deviant. Devontae.
Nice one there, Tay. That's like a little Kurt Russell, some Crussell.
Deviant needs a little coaching, maybe. So who knows? But to have these guys take the next step that we need to have happen, maybe this is the coaching. But I don't know. I'm looking forward to this draft. It's you always get pumped when you think about that, and then we have 5 picks in the first 3 rounds.
Yep.
That's
5 in the top 100, dude.
It's pretty dope.
It's dope, as the kids say, Tay.
It is very dope. So I think through this off season, we'll pick apart and look at some of these things on this team, like performances this year, how certain players have either overperformed or underperformed.
Like 1-7, Tay, your boy, your dog. Not Tay, but that'd be Anders Carlson Tay. 1-7 in Green Bay.
I think I made it explicitly clear on the first takeaway last week.
I think he's
Saturday.
dead to you.
He's dead to me. Screw that stuff.
I think you professed your love for number 2 so hard. Your man crush is not ended, and now you feel the hate. The hate. Like he moved in the house. Your dad moved out. Mom brought in a new boyfriend.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm not, this guy is never, he's never going to be anything to me.
Yeah,
he's not it. He is not my guy.
Am I wrong?
Well, the Packers did, Tay, bring in a little competition. A little too late, Tay. Jack Podlesny. Jack Podlesny to the 90-man off-season roster, Tay, because it is now. As a result, maybe partially to do with Anders Carlson, the off-season, Tay. He did. He came out in 2023. Was a undrafted free agent. Went to camp with the Vikes, Tay. But
Traitor.
Speaking of DeWyatt, or whatever you call him. DeWyatt. And our other guy, 7 in the middle, Tay. He's also from Georgia, if you want to throw Stokes in the mix. He played with those guys all at Georgia. Made 60 of 73 field goals, Tay. That's 82.2%. And 182 of 184 extra points, 98.9% over his career. During his senior season, Tay, missed only 4 kicks, was 26 of 29 field goals, 73 of 74 on extra points, and led the nation, Tay, in scoring, playing in the biggest football conference in college football in the SEC.
Where was he last week?
That's a little kicker comp for now, Tay. A little too late, they say. Should have been Mason on the roster, Tay. They should have just swiped him.
Yeah.
Got him in there for those intermediate kicks and said, Anders, you can do the kickoffs.
Right. Do the kickoffs. I got this, man. Like, and so a couple things. I talked to some family members through my wife.
Oh, yeah, because your wife is literally the president of the Mason Crosby fan club.
Yes, it's an all male.
We do know that.
But I think Andy Herman brought it up. He brought it up that we were one roster spot was open.
There was a available open roster
and he
spot.
Was like,
that is correct.
He was, I don't know if anyone else has said it, but he was like, well, just bring Mason on, right? Just get him in there for this game. Why not? So you got that. But like Anders seems to be kicking from like, oh man, I got to make this. I better make this or I'm screwed, right? But Mason, when he goes up there, his mentality is like, I'm kicking this to win this field goal. Like the pressure's on for me to win for my team and to continue my legacy and to bring this home. And I think there's different playing styles for different reasons to make that kick based on both those two dudes. I just don't understand why they let it come down to a rookie kicker to make probably the biggest kick of the year, and he failed, and it's a direct correlation to the loss. And it just gets me that they have just decided to not have any competition for this guy, to just write him in. There's he's a write-on ballot. There's no competition for him. No one's going against him. But I think you have to either point to the fact that he's Rich Bisaccia's little boy, like he's that guy, like you can't touch him. He's I drafted him. He's my guy. You can't touch him, and like it's either that or else they're just like they went overkill on the mentality of we're going young or we're going cheap, and that's what we're doing. Case closed. We're done. But as the season went on, you can look back and you can see a couple losses here and there on extra point kicks even that he missed. And then you're going into the playoffs and you lose by 3. And what did Anders do? He missed 3 points. It's unacceptable to me. This is the big league. And you fell flat. You didn't do what you're supposed to do. put tons of blame on the Packers organization for doing it, and it will be forever in my mind one of the biggest blunders of this season. Like it ranks up there probably outside maybe Joe Barry, the second biggest blunder of the season for the Green Bay Packers.
Wow, Tay. Wow. I'm just kidding. No, I mean, I think you're mostly right. I think they went in the season thinking this whole season was a little bit of a reset. We're going young. We're going to go young everywhere.
But you got to change.
You're right. Where they failed, and I will agree with you, is that when things started to get, wow, they just kicked Dallas's ass, get heavy into that point, and you're like, we got a shot here. We put together a good game plan. We got to make sure we cover all our bases, right? We got to say, hey, if we need a big kick in this game, how are we feeling? He's missed a lot of extra points this year. He's missed a lot of field goals. He consistently misses between 40 and 49. He actually has a better track record, 50 and over. It's that sweet spot, and oftentimes that's where you're kicking, where he missed, 41-yard field goal. They could have maybe done something about that going into San Francisco, being like, hey, we're playing for something bigger now. This isn't about the kid. It's not about any of that. It's about doing what we need to do. And yeah, Andy's right. I mean, if they got an open roster spot, why the hell not have a veteran kicker, be it Mason Crosby or somebody else, out there with you to say, hey, we know that he's struggled here. Let's not put the pressure on him right now. This is about us winning a football game. Mm-hmm. He'll get over it, and we'll continue to develop.
It's not about you.
And I know now they'll have competition with him, through training camp, but ultimately he's going to get the job, Tay, to start the season, because now you invested all this time already. Now you got to see it at least the second year through to know for sure, because if you let him go somewhere else and then, now he had all that seasoning and then he takes off and now he's a, really good top end kicker in the league for the next 10 years, you're like, damn, we put all the work in and didn't want to put in the extra year.
And, right.
And so that's why I think they're going to need to just, he's going to get the second year, Tay.
Absolutely. But this first year, this time frame here is where you needed to adjust, check and adjust. I probably guarantee it. I guarantee you the next year he does fine and then he keeps getting better. Just like his brother. Yeah, sure. His brother struggled the first year. He struggled the first year. I guess I'm not talking about next year and beyond. I'm just talking about this year. Like, they made a mistake. They went all in and they lost with this gamble on Anders. So right here in this moment, in this time, this year, they should have done something different. They should have check and adjusted, but they didn't. Next year and beyond, I'm sure he's going to be the guy. I'm sure he'll be fine. So, but again, it's like, that's not what I'm talking about. I guess I'm not talking about the long term here. I'm talking about last Saturday night. Like, what are you doing? Yeah. So big mistake.
And you're right. I mean, they should have known better, knowing that's one of their biggest glaring weaknesses. And points are at a premium in the playoffs. They are. You got to get everyone you're going to try to get. You got to get them. And they needed those three, no doubt.
You kind of talked about Love's contract coming up. You think that they're going to do something in the offseason, like in May-ish?
I think it'll happen pretty quick after they can in May, yeah.
And I think they do need to do something like that. I think I guess there's a lot of time to talk about this contract thing, but I think you're right. I think they'll ink something before, and it's an extension, right? They already have them under contract for next year. So what they're doing is probably like an extension that will push money and spread it all.
Whether or not they even touch this year, because it's a super cheap year. The Packers like to push out the money and pro-air a lot of out, so if they can spread it out, maybe move a little bit into this year, great, because his cap number is going to be so low, and they're going to have a lot of extra cap money now that Rodgers' money comes off the books. And there's a couple veterans we'll talk about here in a minute before we get done for the night that are going to, they may have upwards of $70 million available to them this year. And if they do, I think it's at least going to be 40 someday. But if they have that much, throw some into this year so that you can push some of it out. No reason not to, because most of your work this year, again, is going to be in the draft. I think there'll be a free agent or two, but I think most of the work is, again, going to be staying young and doing the draft.
And, everyone saw the games this year. We all watched. We all saw how his progression did, very well. He played very well at the second half of the season, and everyone has crowned him. So it's like, the Packers know more than we do. They know what they have there. They know what if they should be giving him an extension or not. They're the ones that have all the knowledge and hold all the cards. So if they do give him an extension, that is also an indicator like this is our guy.
It's already been reported that that's already the plan.
Yes,
literally.
Right. But until we see it happening, it's like okay,
right.
The indicators are there. But yes, let's see it ink to paper here. But lock it in, put your money where your mouth is, get him in here, and we'll whatever, good or bad, we have him. And we have our guy for a little while yet. Speaking of other guys, Agent 69, Ren. So
that's what I wanted to talk about for sure.
Obviously, the Packers lose, they're out. It immediately turns into off-season free agency watch, draft, research. All this stuff happens, and immediately, this week, Monday, Tuesday, today, everyone's talking about all these things that happen with the Packers and on the roster. And one of them is Bakhtiari. What's the deal with Bakhtiari? Only because he's a veteran. He's one of the oldest guys on the team, if not the oldest. I think he is. Mm-hmm. And he's got the biggest cap hit, right? So you're looking at, what do you do with him? Do you want him back? Can we have him back? What are our options here? So I guess I'll throw it out to you. You could base it with facts or not, or stats, but what would your plan be for Bakhtiari, and what would you choose if you had your way?
Bakhtiari's not on my football team next year, Tay. For a number of reasons. He's not been reliable. You can't rely on the man. Yeah, sure, when he's healthy, he can play a very good brand of left tackle, no doubt about it. But he hasn't been healthy since 2020, Tay.
Yeah.
He's over 30 now. No, it's not worth it to me at all.
What about the cap casualty, the cap hit that you're going to take? Can you even mathematically do this?
So, yes, 100% now, Tay. So, basically, I think it ends up with a $19 million dead cap hit, Tay, but gives him $21 million in cap space to move on.
If you cut him.
Correct.
And would you be able to cut him with his injury thing?
That's the one catch-22 is that whole thing with that possible potential injury grievance on Bakhtiari, which would immediately block 40% of his cap hit from the Packers salary cap, something to that nature.
And this is why you see injury reserve people get injury settlement and then they get released, and that's what this is, right? So if he's on IR, he was, I don't know what his status is after we lost, but he was on IR. If you cut him, then you'd have to have some sort of injury settlement that the Packers pay a bunch of money to the guy in order for him to be released, and that is what was happened. But then his cap hit would be huge, right?
It wouldn't, I think they can still get that figured out. They're hoping somebody says, and then he's going to have to pass physicals and things, and is he going to be able to do that? That somebody still is like, hey, he could be a left tackle for my football team and be a damn good one, and I'm willing to take the risk, a la New York Jets, even though we know he hates turf. I don't know, Tay. I just think Rasheed Walker played a good brand of football. I think they need to go young there, and I think they need to draft a guy, probably with their late first round pick. That's probably where I'm going is, offensive lineman. I just think it's. I see David on the Twitter box X machine. He's just I don't know. I think they need to keep their young team,
distance themselves a little bit,
and move on from that, and not have part of that on my football team. I don't think he fits the football team. I don't really want him with the football team. I think, again, he's a liability. He just, in so many ways, I don't want David Bakhtiari back as a Packer.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think there's a way. If there was a way to get rid of him, or to just move on from him, fine. But I don't know. I have a bad feeling that it's not going to be easy, and that we're going to end up with him next year on the Packers, and that's fine, I guess. But when he, maybe he turns, a corner, and he can play, 8-10 games next year, and he can do really well.
Is even that enough? Because then you're still shuffling, and then other guys aren't getting playing time. I just don't think it's worth it in any way, shape, or form with David anymore. And again, it was going to be my question for you. About him. To me, I don't see him with a place on this football team. I don't. Again, I know he at his top level can play really well. I don't see it.
Yeah. Yeah,
just the way this team is growing and building together. I'm not saying he's a cancer type of guy. I don't think that, but I just don't think he fits. I think he's a programmatic non-fit. What was that? The old guy in Minnesota, but I just don't think he fits their football team anymore. I just don't.
I agree with you. But what if David decides that he's going to fit? He's like, I'm going to be on this team, and
he'd have to restructure. That's the only way. The Packers are not bringing him back on that deal. 1,000%. They're getting that injury grievous settlement and getting him the heck off the roster, or he's taking if he's serious about it and he wants to be a Packer, that is the only way.
Because you can see a chain of events where he's now thinking, oh, there's actually promise here. I look over there at the Packers East in New York, and I don't see a lot of opportunity anywhere. I see more opportunity.
They got like a 1-year window, maybe.
Maybe. We don't even. That's a big if. But
right.
Now you've seen it here in Green Bay. Actually, wow, it's in my own backyard.
Oh, he was tweeting about it a little bit, like
right.
When they're playing well, like, yeah, you want to know a little bit of that? Now you do, because you remember going into the season.
Yeah.
I got kind of pissed about it, and he's on a bus on a talk show doing some barstool crap, and he's like basically saying the Packers might suck.
Yeah.
He's like, I didn't say that. That's not what I'm alluding to. It's just like we're improving. We haven't played any games yet. And he like backtracked that whole thing. I just don't see him as part of this football team. They started something new here, and he wasn't with the team all season. He's out of there. Yeah. No thanks, David. You're move on down the road.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting to kind of like see what happens here with that, because that is it's something to watch and you wonder. And yeah, I agree with you. I think it's time to move on. Can we? Will we?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think Matt's comments even alluded to it. Like, he's a really great football player. It's like he didn't rubber stamp anything. We'd like to. Hopefully David will be able to be back with his football team. None of that was said, Tay.
What's funny to me? Ask about Watson's hamstring, and Matt LaFleur on Monday says, "Oh yeah, we're really gonna be watching this recovery. We're gonna reevaluate his I don't know, his PT or whatever you want to call it, his off-season training recovery plan." Like he attacked that. It's like we're gonna do everything we can. We gotta go back to the drawing board here and get him healthy, right? And I just like and then they talk about Bakhtiari, and there's like none of that. Like what's his knee recovery situation here, Matt? Like can we get David on this little recovery plan of yours that you have for Watson? Because Watson's so great, we got to get him back.
But Watson is. I mean, he's so young yet. I mean, he's that Papa Top guy in the offense. You want that receiver who can stretch the field, because he does so many other good things to the other receivers on the field with him. Be it as a decoy sometimes, Tay, or getting that deep ball. I mean, let's hopefully get something worked out. I mean, it is such a priority to the point, Tay, where they fired Chris Gizzy, the strength and conditioning coach.
I wonder if you actually saw that. I wanted you to confirm that. So
he was
coach fired.
He is gone, and he's been there for quite a while. He was actually promoted to that title, Tay, when LaFleur was hired as head coach, and he had been in a capacity with the organization in some of these respects with like assistant at XYZ since 2013. And we all remember Chris Gizzy as a special teams player back in the day. Most remembered for the post 9/11 game, running out with the flag on the field.
Yeah.
That kind of iconic moment in Packer history. First game back at Lambeau post that date. So wish Chris well, but yeah, this is a team, Tay, that's had its fair share of soft tissue injuries, and they don't seem to get it figured out year to year. They have a lot of it. Sometimes that's just luck. Or bad luck, whatever you want to call it. And a guy really doesn't have a lot to do with it. But again, I think sometimes a fresh kind of new look and how they approach, strength and conditioning is a good thing.
I remember people talking about this mid-season, I don't know who it was. Maybe it was dealing with Watson or Bakhtiari, but I was like, like people are, calling out this whole section of the coaching staff that I never really even think about from time to time. But yeah, maybe firing him, Gizzy, that is a sign that, okay, like we need to do something to change this up, because we do have a lot of injuries, and they seem to be
we need a new take on it.
Up. Yeah,
right?
new take. So I'm all about it. Go for it. It seems like, but this whole strength and conditioning coaching staff just seems like another black hole. Like you come here to get fired, just like the defensive coordinator position. So we got a couple black holes on the coaching staff.
Well, I would guess a new guy's going to come in, clearly, Tay, and you're going to probably see a little bit more change over there, even with some of the assistants. So we shall see. But again, getting a new take on something, getting some new, fresh voices and ideas in the building. After now, Matt LaFleur had been there. This will be his 6th season or 5th season coming into this. So
Fifth,
I think 6th, Tay.
already, yeah.
6th season already. So, hey, it's time. It's needed. And again, more changes are a coming, I think.
Last topic before we leave. There are 2 more games this weekend. It's the
Indeed, there are. The Packers, Lions. Oh, wait.
But so the Lions play the 49ers out in Santa Clara again. I'm gonna be rooting for the Lions. I don't care. I think
that's pretty much the sentiment on the interwebs, Tay. Is that amongst all NFC North fans, most of them are like, yeah, at this point, go Lions.
And this is my thought process about it. The Niners are our Vikings, right? Like we love to hate them. We don't like them. They are the thorn in our side sometimes.
They're our boogeyman.
They're more competition than our boys next door. And realistically, if the Lions, they had a good year so far. If they make it to the Super Bowl, awesome.
They're like they're like the little brother. You're patting them on the head.
But you're never gonna worry about him in the long run, are you?
Usually not. The Niners usually not competition for
the Niners. You're worried. As long as they have a good competent coach over there. So
that roster is starting to age, though. I will say that.
But so that's why I'm rooting against the Niners, rooting for the Lions. Go get that. Go get that.
Get to a Super Bowl. They haven't even appeared in one day
Never.
in the Super Bowl era. So, it's crazy. The Browns and the Lions have been around a long time. Since before the league merger, both these teams were NFL teams.
You can argue that the Ravens are the old Browns, but
the Browns are the Browns, Tay. That franchise has not ever been to a Super Bowl.
I'm rooting for the Ravens to beat the Chiefs. I'm sick of the Chiefs.
I've never liked the Ravens.
I don't either, but you gotta like this aspect.
I don't know.
You gotta like that Lamar Jackson didn't cave into any of this exterior pressure, outside pressure to get his own agent. He manipulated and got his own contract. He played an MVP season, and he's almost going to the Super Bowl. You got to give credit to that kid for sticking with it, sticking to his convictions, and he's getting it done. He's really talented. So that's who I want to win. I don't care about the rest of the team. The franchise, don't like him either. But Lamar, go get that ring, Lamar, quickly. Like Mahomes and Kelsey have had too much time in the spotlight.
They have. Mahomes doing Brady crap. Every starting year, AFC Championship game.
Yeah.
Never not
I know.
the AFC Championship game, at least.
It's disgusting.
Every year, 6 years in a row. Every year as a starter. He's in the AFC Championship game at worst.
They're the new Patriots. Mahomes is Brady's equivalent, and now
because he's got Gronk too. He's got Kelsey.
Sure.
And
yep.
I tell you what, I think like 4 of the 5 top defenders in division round weekend, even though their defense is like not a bunch of household names, were Chiefs.
Yeah.
They played super well. That's why they won in Buffalo. Sure, Buffalo made some mistakes as well, like the Packers did, and lost a game they could have won. But listen, they're the Chiefs, man. They are the current pseudo dynasty. You go 6 years in a row to the championship game, Tay.
Yeah,
that's saying something.
And Andy Reid is the new Bill Belichick. So it's just
Andy's been not the new Belichick for a long time. Andy's been pretty successful in most of his career.
But when he when you do the comparison, it's like
right. Well, yeah. Give a guy as good of a coach as Andy, Hall of Fame quarterback.
Right. Boom. That's
bingo.
What I'm saying.
You're there every year.
So I'm rooting for the Ravens and I'm rooting for the Lions. So hopefully 2 animals will meet in the Super Bowl.
I don't really care in the AFC who goes. I really wanted it to be Buffalo because a Buffalo Detroit Super Bowl, perfect. Somebody's going to win it that never has. That'd be awesome.
Yep, I agree.
So unfortunately, we didn't get that. But yeah, I'm going to root for the Lions and go get to a Super Bowl at the least. Lions, go do it.
All right, Ren, let's get out of here. I think we talked enough about this stuff. If you got any questions for us, any topics you want, hit us up, info@packeruniverse.com, or head over to our socials and contact us that way.
I think Tate has had a mini stroke.
I got all this coaching stuff, and we got a lot of issues to talk about coming up here. So
we got a lot of issues, people. That said,
thanks everyone for listening. Thanks for being there in this new year, and new era of the Packers in the books.
And what a start to this new era it was, with a lot of promise down the road. But Tay, until next week on the Pup List, we talk about all those pending free agents, the IRFAs, the restricted free agents on episode 258, Tay, on the Pup List.